Hi Ben, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for coming and doing this interview.
It's all good. Thank you for inviting me.
Um, so could you tell us a bit about your professional footballing background?
So I work as just an intern as an academy analyst at Watford right now. That's the past season. Then before I've been doing first team analysis and academy analysis at Exeter City.
Lovely, thank you very much. So, how do you think that the English football pyramid is fair to the clubs involved, or if you don't think it's fair, why not?
Um, I think it's fair. I think it's the best structure that world football has, and I think that's shown the last few years with like Saudi trying to use money to make all the best players come to them. But also, I think it's fair, but it's not fair. Like, I think it's so fair that every club has an opportunity to go the whole way. If you look at, I know, like look at Lincoln right now, punching above their weight. But then also, I think it's unfair just because of the finances between each league. So the more you go down, the finances are just ridiculous. And then you've got the whole thing of the National League and League Two, how only two teams go out, get up of the National League. Um, So you see that York could have finished on 100 points this year, I'm pretty sure, and not go up. So I think that's unfair, but I think overall it's pretty fair.
Fair, thank you. So you kind of talked about kind of the financial inequality. Um, how would you say that the football pyramid is financially unequal?
Um, so it's the Premier League is the money in the Premier League compared to the EFL is ridiculous. I remember when Luton went up, they had 80 million in TV money alone, and you don't get near that in the Championship. Um, so immediately it's a huge benefit for the Premier League teams, and especially like if you watch, say, I know Wolves go down, they'll probably be in a good position to go straight back up because they'll have so much more money. And then you look at a lot of the Championship clubs losing money because they're spending so much to try and keep up with the Premier League. I think it was like 70 million they spent in agent fees. I think that came out the other day. It's just ridiculous. Teams can't sustain that competition for too long. So you watch like West Brom and Leicester now really, really struggling at the bottom of the Championship.
Yeah, so kind of recently Sky Sports have started to show a lot more to do with the Championship, a bit more to do with League One. Do you expect that to make a positive influence when it comes to the football pyramid and promotions and kind of financially around the game?
Um, Obviously, from a fan's perspective, it's a bit obviously as it kind of goes. I hate Sky Sports for me for my games, so there is that, which I don't like about it. But I think if it gives the clubs more of a boost financially, then yes. But then also it's going to start to create that difference between the League One and League Two, and then the National League, so you aren't showing that much. I know the National League have DAZN, but they're not getting tons of money off that.
Lovely. So would you say kind of that the idea of promotion being realistic, especially in the lower leagues, kind of your steps six, seven, um, how much would you agree that kind of promotion realistically is achievable without some sort of external funding?
So those lower leagues, they're just monsters. I know. I've seen a lot of it this year. Um, a lot of loans. So I think it is achievable at like step six, seven, eight to get out of those leagues because you have a lot of teams will use academy loans, which don't cost that much, if anything at all. So it is definitely achievable in those lower leagues to go up and move. And then you look a bit further up and you've got Bromley, the National League, and then League Two straight away. You've got Lincoln pushing the Championship. So you're seeing a lot of clubs, and you've got Luton as well, and they rose. A lot of those clubs didn't have the financial support, like external financial support that say like Wrexham have. So it is definitely possible, but it's just less likely. You've just got to be run very well as a football club.
Okay, all right. So kind of how does that gap between the Premier League um, and non-league kind of affect clubs trying to rise?
I think it just makes it harder because every club will hit a stone or just a rock. Just they can't move. So you've got so again you might have Leicester in League One next season, and you might have Bromley in League One as well next season. It's just that financial difference there is going to be massive, and who knows what will happen. But it will be a harder job for Bromley than Leicester because Leicester have facilities of a Premier League club and probably compared to a lot of League One clubs, the budget of one. So it would just be harder for those clubs like Bromley, who are small clubs that fight to survive, fight to win, and it'll make it harder for them to climb up the table.
I mean, earlier you kind of talked about Luton. Was it about three years ago? There's in the Premier League one came up through the Championship playoffs. They obviously receive parachute payments. Clubs that are kind of consistently receiving parachute payments that come up and down, up and down. Do you find that fair in terms of them competing with the other clubs? Do you think that that potentially needs to change?
Um, I do think it does need to change. Obviously, you watch Luton; they did nothing with the parachute payments, so they just fell even further. So it is possible for parachute payments to be almost less beneficial because if teams spend their money badly, they are in trouble. But yeah, I think it's like 30 million they get for going down. It's like the teams aren't going to have near that. So again, if you look at Lincoln and Stockport going up, they're not going to have near that financial aid. So yeah, I do think, especially with Luton getting those parachute payments still in League One, it's definitely something needs to be done, whether they're reduced or whatever, just got rid of, because it is very unfair for the lower league teams who haven't been there and want to compete, but actually see they don't have the facilities, the players, the budget to compete.
Yeah, definitely. So you right now you're working with Watford around their youth system. Obviously a championship club right now. Um, but how does the football pyramid affect that youth system?
The football period is so good for the academy youth system. We've got so many players out on loan in step 6, step 7, I think some in step 8. And it's a huge part for them growing as a player because you don't get that first team environment. It's such a big step from even under 21s football to go and playing in the men's game. It's a big physical test that again nowhere else in the world really has. And I think if we keep sending out loan players there, our academy players there, whether any team, 21s, 18s, going out there and seeing how tough it is physically, I think it makes or breaks a lot of players, and then the best ones shine through that. So it's superb for the academy system.
So a lot then you've kind of talked around Watford and being kind of sent to steps 6, 7, 8. But when you kind of look at step 6, 7, or 8, the lower ones, and their kind of youth systems, I know they're not exactly structured the exact same, but how do you think the football pyramid is used within them?
Ooh, good question. I think that will come from a lot of those will so in those youth systems of those lower league clubs will come from grassroots, and that's again something that a lot of other countries don't use a lot of. I think so the grassroots, and you've got a step up from that. You've got your private academies where your a bit more talented players go to, and then even they can. So like your Dorking can probably snatch a few players off a private academy, and that's just how it grows really. And you see a lot of youth players actually with a clear pathway into step 6, 7, 8. I used to go to uni with someone who was getting first team minutes at I don't remember what one, but the pathway to first team football there is very easy, and it gives young players a chance to shine.
Brilliant. So do you reckon that the pyramid structure is going to carry on surviving the way that it is, or do you think it needs some sort of change, whether it's financially, whether it's from within the clubs, within the leagues, the FA? What change do you think it needs, if it needs any at all?
I don't think it needs. I wouldn't say any major changes because it's worked for so long. I would only say I'm a big fan of reducing the money in football somehow. So maybe reducing those parachute payments, um, just something along those lines, just a bit of a tweak to it, just to make it a bit more even across the playing field. But then also you see the smaller clubs hiring smarter, playing smarter, using more data to help their decisions. So it's definitely still okay without a reform, I would say. But I think the more money that gets pumped into football, maybe you might be looking at just taking that out.
Lovely, thank you. So, do you reckon that the gap between the levels is going to continue to grow? I know you said that it's kind of fair and it's been around for so long, but there is such a gap between all the levels, whether it's down to, the ability of the athletes or whether it's down to just financially. Do you reckon we can see that grow in the future?
Yeah, definitely. The gaps will continue to get bigger because the money in football will always continue to grow. Um, so it will become more and more unfair. Um, and your lower league clubs will struggle. And I don't think you'll see a situation like Leicester winning the league again, or Lincoln rising up, Luton rising up, Bromley rising up. It's just something you probably won't see much in the future. So yeah, I'd say the gap's going to continue to get bigger, and it's gonna start to damage football at some point.
Yeah, I mean, you've just kind of talked about the lower kind of divisions quite struggling. Do you think there is a risk of the clubs disappearing at the lower levels?
Yeah, definitely. You look at Macclesfield. Um, there was one they're so lucky to come back, but they I don't know exactly what happens, but they lost all their money, went into administration, and yeah, they were lucky to come back. So there definitely is a big risk of clubs falling because they don't have the money to sort out legal fees and whatnot. So yeah, there definitely is that risk of lower league clubs disappearing off the face of the earth.
I mean, there is definitely, as you've kind of just explained, that risk, and um, Wrexham received a lovely takeover from Hollywood. Um, do you think kind of the amount of money? I mean, they've gone up and up and up. The amount of money that's invested for a club like Wrexham, who were at the level they were, do you find that to be an unfair advantage? Do you think that it needs to be kind of limited spending?
Well, we have FFP, don't we already? But again, I'm not entirely sure on the ruling of that because Wrexham have spent so much money in the last 3, 4 seasons or whatever. So I definitely think whether it's like an, maybe like a salary cap for each league, maybe I don't know. It's just me thinking off the top of my head here. It's something I think does need to be done to limit the spending because like the rise of Wrexham was as fun as it is. It's not the rise of the other clubs who really adapted to modern day football where they would use data, they would recruit smart, they'd play smart instead of just throwing money at it in a very unsustainable way. But obviously, Wrexham's a really unique situation because there's funding. I keep coming in from the like Disney shows. Not every team's going to get its own show, so I think something does need to be done. That sort of case.
Lovely. Thank you very much for your time, Ben.
Thank you.